Hello and welcome to Melbourne Youth Orchestra Presto PD series. My name is James Le Fevre and today I'm joined by David Legan and we're talking repertoire and repertoire selection. David, kick us off. What drives your decision making when it comes to choosing repertoire?
Thanks, James. I think the number one thing is I look at the technical deficiencies in our players and I try to choose repertoire that fixes those deficiencies, and my other aim is to actually prepare them for our training orchestra, the Percy Granger Youth Orchestra. So I try to choose repertoire that teaches them those basic orchestral techniques, in particular, how to use their bow to get phrasing and dynamics, so that they have the tools to be able to play the repertoire once they're in Percy Granger Youth Orchestra.
So it's actually the skill set that you're looking to teach, and it's almost like the repertoire serves that skill set. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, excellent. I resonate with that quite a bit because that's exactly the way that I go about programming as well. And, we might have a concert or something like that for sure. But at the end of the day, we're really choosing repertoire as the content that serves the curriculum, which is the skill set. And that's both an ensemble skill set, but also an individual skill set as well. In the wind symphony or concert band realm, that can be really quite difficult because you have such an array of instruments in a concert band. Choosing repertoire that's going to challenge the clarinet section versus maybe supporting, the trombone section a little bit more, or a young oboist out there all by themselves. I think also that we really need to look in a wind band setting and concert band, really looking at the individual players within our ensemble. At the moment, coming back from COVID, there's been a lot of talk and chatter about flex band arrangements and whether they're a good thing or bad thing. And at the end of the day, I think really it's our job as the leader of that ensemble, the conductor of that ensemble, to make repertoire decisions that are actually going to support the musical development of the players in our ensemble, and support the musical development of all of the players in our ensemble. So that's not always easy. Playing a diversity of style, I think, is really, really important. And I know some of the work that you've done, you've spoken about previously, that we're programming things from an array of different periods for you in a string setting, coming from that long history of European music. There's a lot to choose from there. For us in the concert band realm, it's a little more recent, and we're really kind of looking back, maybe kind of 50 years or more. It's a lot of American music in there, of course. So choosing a repertoire from an array of different styles. David, agree with that?
I completely agree. In the string world, you have the wonderful Baroque repertoire and classical, but there are some great arrangements out there of modern music, not just Disney, but film music for strings, but also just current pop charts or rock music or anything. Some of the arrangements of of the Beatles done for string quartet, we can do for string ensemble. They're fantastic arrangements. And I also think, choosing Australian music, composers that are still alive, current Australian composers, is extremely important for our students as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do joke about, Disney being a sometimes food. And I think it has a place, for some students, they're really going to engage with like a melody that they actually know at a much higher level, particularly initially, but having a balance of repertoire is really important. But also finding the educative value inside of that popular repertoire. It's in there hiding, and sometimes you've got to work hard to pull it out. But I guess, the other thing to sort of think about here is that not everything that you play in a rehearsal actually has to make it onto the gig. You don't actually have to perform everything that's in a rehearsal. I sort of think an organisation like the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, they have rehearsals because they have a concert. I think for us in an education setting, that's back the other way. We rehearse and we learn, and the concert is part of that process. It's not necessarily just the final goal. And if you're only programming repertoire for what's going to be on a concert, I think that you're actually closing yourself off to a lot of great learning that can actually happen in the ensemble. And yeah, I totally agree with you that Australian repertoire and programming repertoire from composers of a diverse background is so necessary and so important now more than ever. And what's really great is that it used to be really, really hard to find that repertoire, but increasingly so. it's actually easier to come across that repertoire, and there's some some great websites being developed where you can go and find out about music that comes from an array of different composers, both geographically, gender, and all of the different diversity that we definitely want to reflect in our programming, because that reflects our society. David, tell me about when you're programming repertoire and you've got something in front of you that you think looks really hard. Are you going to program stuff that's really hard, or are you going to program some things that are easier, or a mix? How do you work that?
I look at it as a year project and the arc of the year. So I'll always, at the beginning of the year, choose slightly easier repertoire so that the students can get used to playing in the ensemble, get used to playing within their section. They learn how to follow the conductor. They can watch the conductor and learn about pauses and tempo changes, because I think really working on those 1%ers within rehearsals is really important. So if you choose repertoire that's slightly easier, so they're not just getting the notes and you're using your rehearsal to just get the notes and work on those other things that is really important. However, as the year progresses, I always make the repertoire harder. And that's when you're aiming for your speech night at the end of the year or your end of year concert, you can maybe have started that piece maybe in April or term 2, but you've used the arc of the year to actually get them to learn that more difficult repertoire.
And I definitely agree about that notion of programming things that are simpler so that the musicians in front of you can actually focus more on the ensemble. We all know it. When you put something up in front of you and it's really, really hard, your eyes switch on and your ears switch off. And that's not what we want. We want students to be able to play repertoire where they can experience enjoyment of making music as well. If it's hard all the time, that's not a fun experience in my experience, it's not a fun experience for the students or myself. If it's a hard piece of music and all you do is kind of things that are beyond the student, where's that moment to actually experience success and the joy of music and being able to let go and just play? I think that's a really, really essential part of the jigsaw puzzle of why students keep coming back to make music. David, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.